അതേ വരണ്ടല്ലോ അത് ഇതിൽ സെറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഓ നമുക്ക് ഉച്ചയ്ക്ക് ജസ്റ്റ്
You did? That's going too? Change the door.
It's dated.
This is my neighbor.
Very glad.
I'm sorry? There are 4 today. I received an email this morning. Yes. So there are 4 of us, and I will be reading a statement. So you would like to say? Yeah. Yeah. So I will be giving.
Hey, how are you?
Let me show you. Great. Yes. So essentially, I will have.
No, you can just keep it because you're coming canvassing tomorrow, right?
Yeah. So I don't. If you don't understand the question, just turn around. I'll be right there. Okay.
What's the campaign like with the
We're not going up to the podium. However,
No, I'll give it to you and then just keep it and then when you come out.
each of you,
We have large or extra large?
we're going to give each of you
I have a large or an extra large.
So, my name is Tom. So each of you will be given 5 minutes initially to talk. And then each question on 2 minutes. Okay. So feel free to get up and walk around when you're time. Cliff Esserman is going to be there, and he'll be our timekeeper. I just asked that you. Yeah. I don't know where he is now. He's probably just on his way. Yeah. We actually have this. Okay, good. Yeah. So I don't know where it is now, but obviously water's over there. This is being live streamed, so I texted everyone. And again, but it will be at the League of Women Brokers. Yes. It depends. But I'm going to give people effort of time. And that's correct. However, we're giving the audience the ability to write that. Especially if it's all weekend. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so no microphone to the audience.
And already officially yet, so we've got everything set up for companies.
Are they going to make FSU? He was there when they were Hey, listen. That's where they have
Hello everyone, welcome. We're about to start. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much. Whenever we plan activities like this, we know we're competing against the beach, we're competing against family stuff, we're competing against everything. So I am so excited that you're here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gregory Gale. I'm going to be one of the two moderators for today's forum. So thank you so much. What I do is just read the information that was sent to me, because I know many of you may have asked questions concerning, we have 5 individuals on the ballot, but there are only 4 of us here. Commissioner John Brody could not join us today, and so I'm going to read the email that he sent concerning this event. Good morning, Greg. I'm writing this email to inform you that I will not be attending the forum today. I never responded that I would agree to the forum. Also, because the email states that there will be policy questions, there can be issues with the Sunshine Law. Since this is a setup to have Commissioner Tooley in the same room, there can be issues or assumed issues about we say and respond to questions. I would want to keep Commissioner Tooley and myself from violating the law. I will be at the food distribution event helping people in need when canvassing, so I can speak to with residents on a personal level. I wish everyone good luck, and if the format were arranged differently, this may have worked out better. Have a great day, Commissioner John Brody. So I want everyone to hear that. So let me tell you what we have planned today. So we are going to have opening session where we're going to go through some of the details concerning what will happen next. Then each of the candidates will be given 5 minutes to introduce themselves to you. They have the ability of remaining seated, or they have a portable microphone, so they're able to walk around. We're again going to go through a series of questions. During the question session, my colleague Sejan will also be walking around. So if you do have questions and you'd like us to ask, you have the ability of writing down the questions and we will review them to ask. Then at the end, we'll have closing statements, and again, the candidates have the ability to give you their final pitch. And it's our hope that we will finish on or before 2 p.m. today. So with that said, the questions are policy and knowledge based. They were not shared with the candidates. They cover a wide range of issues and primarily directed to groups of 2. So the idea is not to have one question for all 4, but each candidate will have the ability to talk about policy in that particular area. The response manager. We operate under a commission manager form of government. We have 5 commissioners who are elected at large from the city's 5 districts in staggered 4-year terms. The mayor and commission are responsible for legislative functions of the city, including setting city policy, passing local ordinances, approving the budget, and hiring a city manager and city attorney. For those of you who would like to go into more detail, all the ordinances of the city are online. And so you can go online and search for ordinances of the city of Coconut Creek and find everything you'd like to know about all of our rules at the city. And what I'm going to do is just give you some highlights. Again, we have a city commission that is comprised of 5 members. Each member is elected from each of the 5 districts in the city. Each candidate for commission is elected at large. So even though they represent a particular geographic area, this is a citywide election. And the person who is elected must be a resident of that community. We all vote for the commissioners, but they must reside in their individual districts. The candidate that receives the greatest number of votes is the candidate who shall be elected, and voters shall only vote for one candidate. And the commissioner serves for 4 years. All powers of the city shall be vested in the commission. 3 commission members shall be considered a quorum, and a minimum of 5 affirmative votes are required for actions from the city. Three, I'm sorry. I don't have my glasses. The commission should have the power to periodically establish the salaries of its members, and it can also receive automatic increase effective the 1st of October each year. In terms of term limits, no person shall appear on a ballot for election after serving 3 consecutive elective terms. Term limits, the elections prior to November 2022 shall be counted towards term limits. Shall not, sorry. Holding other office or employment except authorized by law. No commissioner shall hold any office in the city other than mayor or vice mayor, or serve as a city employee during the term for which he or she is elected to office or employed as a paid our presentation. And with that, I'm going to have my colleague Burdett take over.
Hi, looks like,
You project over that.
good morning, good afternoon now. Is it not working? You can hear me, right? I know it's very difficult to run for office. I've never run for office, but I've been around a lot of people who have. And it is quite a challenge. So our first question, and this is directed to Becky, why do you want to run for this office?
Are we doing intros first?
Yes,
So you're taking their intros first?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
2 minutes, no, 5 minutes for your intro.
1 second, my timekeeper is not here, so bear with me, I'm doing double duty today. So,
You always do.
so bear with me.
1 second. Yeah, but this is why you're interested in the position. That's a different one. Okay, Ms. Dooley, let's do your intro. You have 5 minutes.
I don't know whether this is working or not, but
Yes,
I'm a
it
big
is.
mouth, so whatever. Actually, I want to explain the charter amendment that everybody voted on, that we could only run for 3 terms. That started 2 years ago with elections, so I could run for 2 more after this one, but I'm not. So I wasn't going to run, and I was asked in August to run because of some of the things that are happening in our city in the next couple of years. One of them being the downtown area, and I'm probably the only one that's been through it. It started 18 years ago, so it's going to be a great project. I just don't want it to be overdeveloped. I'm endorsed by the Broward County Commissioner, Mark Bogan, the Broward County Police Association, the Metro Broward Firefighters, Congressman Jared Moskowitz, State Senator Tina Polsky, and State Rep Christina Chonsky, who's standing back there, who has done a great job, State Representative Dan Daly, the Coconut Creek Commission, the Parkland Commission, and school board members Nora Rupert, Debbie Hickson, and Sarah Leonardo. And terrible, because there's a lot of kids that ride their bicycles and whatever, so we came up and I wrote a bunch of stuff on why they should not do the flyover or whatever they plan on doing. It's supposed to start next year, so hopefully we can stop some of it. Monarch Hill has always been an issue. I'm on the Solid Waste Committee, and I have been for probably 4 years. I've been working with garbage for 7 years. We're trying to stop Waste Management from expanding Monarch Hill across Wiles Road. And if you go that way and you look at the hill, you can see it coming down. And I called them and said, hey, you need to do something because it's coming off into the road. Still hasn't been fixed. So That's the thing, and I've always fought it because I was chairman of the environmental board, because I worry about the liner that's underneath and how it may contaminate the water supply. And when Mary Blasey was here, she hired Ted Riesberg.
1 minute.
Ted Riesberg to do sites and test to make sure that Monarch Hill is okay. One thing that we did was, with an agreement with them, we said certain things could not go in the landfill, and that's a good thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jeff Wasserman, and please include in your intro why you're interested in running.
All right, cool. So we'll do 2 for 1. All right. I'm Jeffrey Wasserman, and I'm running for District A. I'm a high school assistant principal, and in the schools, we basically have a team of assistant principals and a principal. This is like a commission. We are solving problems every day. We are working with our constituents in the school every day. We are working with budget, infrastructure, stakeholders, finding problems, solving problems. This is what I do on a daily basis at my school. I'm running because I want my generation to have representation on this commission. The demographic of Coconut Creek has changed a little bit, and I'd like to represent and lead my generation in having a seat at the table and being able to help the future. I think it's important to honor and respect the past 25 years, which I do. I was a civics and a U.S. history teacher. I love history, and it's important to honor it and remember it, because without it, where would we be today? But I also am looking towards the next 25 years of our city. Me and my word that we are approachable. I got a call yesterday. I kid you not. Lady in Winmore says, "You told me if I ever needed anything to call you." So she called me, and she was having problems with her food stamps application. So I got on the phone with her. We were talking more about it, and I was going to go over there. And she said, "I figured it out. No need. You don't have to come." But I was at the gate at Winmore, and I said to the lady, "I got to turn around." So this is what I do. I'm a public servant. I've done it in the schools. I've seen thousands of students advance. I got students who I had when I taught civics, who are now lawyers, who are now getting involved in public education. This is, I believe that I can be a good role model for the future generations, and I want to be a voice for seniors. I have 2 grandparents who I adore dearly. I wish they were here today, but my grandma couldn't make it, and it's so important that people who are on fixed income, that people who have accessibility issues, that they are represented. And I see it, I live it with my grandma, and this is something I want to lead, especially in the plaza over at Lyons and Coconut Creek Boulevard, just on the diagonal from us. I spoke to Karen Brooks, the city manager, about the plaza, and they repaved it 4 years ago, and they have an old drainage system there that they never addressed, and they never leveled it.
D. So just keep in mind, D is for Delgado. That makes it easier. This March 14th. So the reason why I'm running. The reason why I'm running is because it turns out, after the fact, I'm focused and prepared. That's the bottom line. I've served on just about every board that an individual can serve on in the city. I'm a graduate of the Citizens Academy, so I know how the city works. Basically, that program enables residents, any resident, to participate in it and go department by department, meet the department heads, meet the staff, and get to know how the city works. But most importantly, the reason why I'm running is because I'm the father of 2 children, proud husband of one of the smartest women I've ever met, and the most assertive, which I like as well. And I've been here now 7.5 years. And this is indeed a beautiful city, but my concern is that the city is at a crossroads right now. We have the turnpike and the landfill. Both of those things, the interests that run them are looking to expand them, and I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned what kind of impact that's going to have to our quality of life and to our property values. That's a fundamental concern of mine. I have worked my way up to where I am today. My parents, I was born in Washington Heights, New York. It was a violent city. Unfortunately, we had, my father had a friend who passed away there through violent crime. And so growing up there, I know what a city that is not well run, a city that is not safe looks like, and a city where you might not get the necessary kind of opportunities that one needs looks like. I'm also aware of what it takes as a parent to protect your children and to make sure that they have the best possibilities open to them as possible. And part of the reason why we moved to Coconut Creek here is because we saw that in the city. And I want to make sure that that continues for years to come. So the bottom line is, I've worked with organizations, I've worked with community leaders, I've worked with residents. We had, at one point, I worked with residents out of Pembroke Pines, Pompano, and other cities because they were looking to develop a detention center out in Southwest Ranches. And I was able to mobilize not only elected officials, but on a grassroots level to stop that privatized prison that they were going to put in Southwest Ranches. The residents did not want it. However, they were being told by the company, they were being told by some elected officials that it was inevitable, that this was going to happen in their community. And eventually, the people gathered together, they fought back, and they stopped it. And I see that same kind of struggle happening. It's here, we can't afford that for the people of Wynwood. It's not good for our environment, it's not good for our property values, and it's not good for the long-term health of our city, which I want to protect. Thank you so much, and I would be honored by your vote on March 14th. Thank you.
Nancy?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you to Professor Gale and to Burdette for hosting this great forum today. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for coming out and registering voters. That's so important right now with what we have going on. My name is Nancy Fry, and I am running for Coconut Creek City Commission District D. And my wife are running, sitting right over there. It's those two kids, Jordan and Dylan. You want to wave? Or dad there. So they're 7 and 10. And I need to make sure that I'm setting up a world for them that they can succeed in, that they can be happy and healthy in. And I need to make sure that I am showing other mothers of young children that they can do this too, because you can't be what you can't see. And I know so many women like me that don't feel that they can participate, that they think that their kids are going to be intrusive, or that they don't have the time, or that they're not welcome. And I want to be an example that you can be here and do this. I'm a PTA mom. I represent our county district on the Commission on the Status of Women for Broward County. I am the vice chair of the Human Relations Committee for the school board. And on top of that, I have a full-time job too. I'm an analyst with the Center for Human Capital Innovation. And so that's to say that I'm involved, I'm in the community, I am with you, and I am here for what you need. And on top of that, I come from a municipal background. I used to be chief of staff to a Fort Lauderdale city commissioner, so I have the city hall experience. I worked with constituents, I've worked with city staff and gotten things done. If you check out today's Sun Sentinel, there is a very lovely letter to the editor saying exactly that from one of the constituents I used to work with in Fort Lauderdale that now lives in Coconut Creek, and I'm very appreciative of his letter there. And speaking of the Sun Sentinel, I was also just endorsed by them. So please check out the paper if you want to read more about me there. And so going to the Turnpike and the landfill, because we're all going to be talking about traffic and waste all day, I'm sure, at this forum. We all are in agreement. These are issues that need to be fixed. These are issues we need to fight in. Again, Nancy Fry, Coconut Creek City Commission District D. Thank you.
Thank you. So I get to ask the next question. I'm standing because I'm using our PowerPoint and I need to have a direct line of sight to the machine. So on the screen, you're seeing the budget. So this is the FY22 budget approved by the City Commission. Highlighted is the area for police services. So we allocated over $28 million for police services, which, when you do the math, it's around a quarter of the overall budget. So this is the largest expenditure in the budget. When you look at staffing, in terms of the staffing within the city, you can also see the breakdown, including the fact that we have 162.5 staff allocated to the police. So the question to Mr. Delgado and Ms. Fry, essentially, the FY budget approved allocated over $28 million for police services. This is the largest expenditure line in the budget. So Tell us your thoughts on that. And you have 2 minutes.
Who goes first?
If you look behind you, you can see your name. So Alfred Delgado first, and then Nancy Fry.
Sure, my feelings are on that particular matter, and this, again, hits home for me. Having grown up Washington Heights, New York in the 70s, that was not a nice place to be. I think one of the reasons why this city shines is because of the men and women in uniform here that protect and serve us every day. So, insofar as the services that they provide, I believe that that amount there is fully justified. I drop off my son David at Trakewinds Elementary every day. I walk him to school along with his sister, Rosie, and just about every time we're dropping him off, we see one of the officers there with the explosive sniffing dog there, Taylor, and it's a beautiful thing to see. We have another resource officer that is there just talking to the children there. She brings plush toys, orangutans, so on and so forth, and the kids are there talking to them. And I think that's what contributes to the quality of life that people want here in the city. In talking to the police officers, one of the other things that was a concern of theirs was the ability to upgrade some of their equipment. I believe there were several vehicles that needed upgrading.
And make sure that police officers are actually getting the resources they need if we can't control our own budget.
30 seconds.
And that, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, question number 3. Are we on the screen? Yeah. If you look at the screen, you see the millage rates for all of the cities in Broward County. According to this data from Broward Property Appraiser's Office, the millage rate for Coconut Creek is 20.56. While the rate's lower than Hollywood, Margate, Tamarack, and others, the rate is higher than Sunrise, Deerfield Beach, Pompano Beach, and Fort Lauderdale. What are your thoughts on this? And Becky, first, 2 minutes.
Actually, our budget would have been even more, but because of the rising house values, it increased the budget. What we do is, if we can't afford something, like we're asking for a new fire truck, charging us for stuff that we didn't need charged for. On the night that they did the Santa thing, which I was Mrs. Claus, they wanted to charge us for the gas. And it's like little things, so. Well, actually, the other thing is, we need a SWAT van. And I've been asking to it for a couple of years. Every other city has it. Your police is usually the budget. So we actually have some police officers training to be paramedics so they can cross-train for this. We had an incident 2 years ago where a policeman was shot. We're damn lucky he wasn't killed. So things are getting worse in our country, unfortunately.
30 seconds.
And in our city, but that's why this is higher, and it's because of the fire. And we all knew that. And also, going to Coral Springs Dispatch was higher than BSO, but at least somebody picks up the darn phone and answers it. And if you're on BSO, they're supposed to call you back. I can tell you, I called 100 times. I never got one phone call back. So we're saving lives with some of the money that we did.
We've seen over the past 4 years a lot more people buying homes in Coconut Creek. We've seen our property, the money, the revenue we bring in from property taxes go about 9%. Because our assessed value of our homes, for example, when we bought our home 2 years ago, she was paying $900 a year on the taxes. Well, now we're paying $3,400 because of the assessed value has gone up. So in looking at this, in piggybacking, I can certainly see that we're in the middle of the pack, which is, it's a good thing. We're not on the high end, we're not on the low end. But when we look at our ad valorem taxes, that's the majority of our revenue for our general fund, where we're getting our taxes. We also have the grants that Ms. Tooley was talking about, and things that can help offset some of these things. When we talk about school board and we talk about funds going towards our schools, a lot of that's built in here. And we need to make sure that we're providing the resources to our students and our teachers, and especially with mental health. So when you build all these things together, it contributes to the good. And in order to be a part of our special cool club, Coconut Creek, sometimes we have to pay our dues sometimes. And I think it's important to recognize that as we navigate these numbers and the taxes and the budget. It's important that our city manager and our administrative offices have the tools necessary to provide the services that we provide. And that's what I feel about that, and thank you so much. It builds that support level, it builds that homegrown feel. And also students who graduate from Coconut Creek High School, and also students who graduate from Monarch, I'd like to, when they graduate college, we want them to come back to the city that they grew up in. And I would also like to provide closing cost assistance to them. When I think about a millennial today trying to buy a home, it is hard. You're talking rent is $1,700, right? It's going up, they give you 60 days notice, it's going up. All of a sudden that millennial is now having to take out credit card debt, they're going deeper and deeper, they can't save fully for a down payment on a home. So we as a city, we have to help people if we have the ability to do so through grants, through different things that can provide our citizens that assistance. What was that, 3 seconds?
30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds. That's how I feel. It's very, we see that people aren't able to buy homes like they used to. It is important that we provide the assistance if we can. I'm repeating myself, so that means I gotta sit down. Thank you.
So this question is a deeply personal one to me because this was the battle I had trying to move to Coconut Creek. We were faced with my husband's student loan debt. We were faced with me, while I had a job, not having the right type of work history for the bank to give us financing. And so it is vitally important that cities step in and take some of the burden off of home buyers. That my generation, millennial generation, we can't build wealth if we can't own our own homes. If we're sinking money into rent every month and not putting it into equity in a home, we can't grow our wealth and we can't move forward and progress in our lives. And I think there are many opportunities for the city to help with this. First and foremost, the Main Street development coming up. There's a lot of residential property coming in there, and I think it is incumbent upon every commissioner to fight for that affordable housing and that workforce housing within those new buildings. On top of that, I know we have some assistance programs that we're partnered with the county on, and while that's a great start, those ILAs are only as good as the county is still having those programs. If the county decides to drop those programs, then we don't have anything anymore. So we need to take control of these programs that can help first-time home buyers, that can help people with rent and mortgage assistance, and there's ways to do that without increasing taxes on residents. There's plenty of grant programs out there. We have a phenomenal city staff that's great with budget, that's great with the finances of the city.
Benefit, but it's only for a small period of time. And within no time, maybe a year, maybe less, you're right back to the same kind of congestion because everybody's now rushing to use those additional lanes that have been built. We need to get more creative about alternatives. We need to be working with the Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization that basically plans how to come up with cohesive transportation alternatives. That's what we need to be doing. The idea that you're going to bring highways and congestion and pollution within 5 feet of a senior community, we know what that does to an individual's lungs. The American Lung Association has done plenty of studies showing that there's an increase in asthma with regards to children, and in terms of seniors, that it obviously has detrimental impacts, severe detrimental impacts on them as well. So I'm completely against this. We need other alternatives, such as public transportation being increased, both fixed route and flexible routing, where people have more transportation options to take them not only locally, but then to the major transportation hubs like Tri-Rail. So thank you so much.
I was at the Ambassador program the other day. We were talking about mass transit and how important it is to our city and trying to figure out different avenues to provide it to our citizens. Back in 2007, they wanted to go from 6 to 8 lanes. Now all of a sudden in 2017, they come back with this plan to go from 6 to 10. Okay? This is a serious problem, especially when the people I talk to, Winmore and the people in Southwick. I mean, everybody knows, I think, we're all pretty in sync that we are opposed to this. But it's all a matter of how we do it. Nancy brought up a thing about overreach, Tallahassee overreach, and this is something we have to fight against. This is something that if the FDOT comes to us and says we're going to start expanding, well, we have other cities who are a part of it. We must unite as one to be able to fight this off. Because once something's built, this kind of goes to the Main Street thing. Once something's built, it's there forever. And we must be smart. And we talked about maybe, I've been talking to people, what about the east side of the Turnpike? Why are we not expanding on the east side? Well, there's some residences there, and there are some gas lines there. But why aren't we looking at that? We have people who want to retire in Winmore. We have sometimes 9,000 citizens who live in Winmore. And also we have the people in South Creek. We need to be able to come together as one with the other cities and fight FDOT, because it's very hard when a state comes in and tells you how to do things or what they're going to do, especially when it's impacting not just our city, but the cities south of us.
Again, this is talking about this demand of additional traffic that I'm not convinced is actually there. And so one of the things that they showed at this public meeting was a chart that said with alternative 1 and alternative 2, and then no change. And the only option that did not involve harming the wetlands over towards Quiet Waters Park is the no change. I live over in Regency Lakes, so I'm just north of the Sawgrass off of Lyons Road. And this is going to impact me and my neighbors. That Texas U-turn, as they call it, is going to completely change the scope of the road at that intersection. And it's going to make it more dangerous for pedestrians. It's going to make it more dangerous for bicyclists. And it's not going to create any significant improvement for the community and for the people that are going up and down the Turnpike. And I'm firmly against any changes to that 10th Street connection and expansion. And furthermore, the reason FDOT has broken up these two projects is because what they're not saying is that if they do the expansion with the Sawgrass, that is going to necessarily require an expansion of the Turnpike because of the additional traffic heading east-west. So if we start giving them this, they're going to then say, well, now we have to expand the Turnpike because look at all this additional traffic. So I think we just need to stand firm and fight for our community, and we all need to be in lockstep, and we all need to use our voices together and show up to every one of these FDOT public meetings. Unfortunately, there were not a ton of people there. There was a lot of city staff, which I was thankful for. I had someone from the Sustainable Development Department actually taking me through and giving me some explanations, because those spaghetti models are also very confusing purposefully. So everyone just stay involved and make sure you're keeping up with all these. Thank you.
Well, they can take this and the Turnpike and throw it in the trash as far as I'm concerned. But let me tell you something. You talk about involvement. The 2 times that we fought the Turnpike, Winmore helped us, but I didn't see other residents there. So when they have other meetings, we all need to come together. And that's not happening. At the one that Nancy was at, I saw 2 people that I knew. And that's a shame. Because especially for our west, north end, like I said before, those kids, some of them have to walk to school and ride their bicycles. It's not going to be safe for them. And I tried to talk to them, and they really didn't want to listen. But I worry about the safety of our kids.
Concerning the city's recycling efforts. Albert?
I think that with regard to and if I get just really quick, insofar as FDOT and the Turnpike expansion, my understanding is, based on the ambassador meeting that we had, it's not funded yet. This goes to the issue of perception. They try to make it sound like it's inevitable. And just real quick, that Southwest 10th extension that they're looking to do is also going to involve a flyover ramp near SOS Village, a foster children's village. That's where they want to put this thing. So, food for thought. As to the recycling, Virtuous that they have the drop-off center. If anybody wants to accompany me to the back of my vehicle in the trunk, I have 2 bags, plastics and aluminum, that I take there every weekend to drop off, meet voters, etc. But I think that is severely lacking. I think we need to be doing a lot more, because one of the things that's happened is, as I've knocked on people's doors, canvassing left and right, what I find time and again is that there is unanimity and passion amongst the residents that they want recycling back. And that's something that I've committed myself in my campaign to bringing back for the residents. People feel guilty that they're throwing away so much trash, and not everybody can meet that schedule of coming in, dropping by on Fridays or Saturdays, Sundays. There are working people, they just cannot drop by, and it's extremely inconvenient. And what I believe has happened is that we've created a bottleneck now where the bulk of the recycling is only happening amongst those individuals that can drive and do over here to the drop-off center and do that. What I want to do is bring back curbside recycling. That's number one. Number two, I'm sorry?
30 seconds.
Number two, I want to, as an interim step, work with HOAs. The city should work with HOAs to organize drop-off points within HOAs so that residents can take their recyclables there, and from there they can be transported to the drop-off center until we reinstitute curbside recycling. But it's an absolute must. We've got an existential crisis for our city with a landfill. We can't be contributing to more pollution. Thank you.
Well, when what to do with recycling came to us, the first thing they said, last year it cost us $220,000 to try to recycle. If you remember, and some of you may not know, China buys all the recyclables. They don't buy them now, so there's nobody buying anything. And that's why what we had to do. We still collect it. Bucky and I go to the recycle thing every weekend and do our recyclables. I'm still going to do that, but a lot of that is
So on your screen are images of Coconut Creek from the 1960s. I think, Becky, you could probably find your house in one of these pictures. Here's a picture of former Earl Johns, I should say, who owned much of what became Coconut Creek. And so as you can see, the city has grown rapidly since the 1960s. Currently the population of the city is around 57,000. So the question is, share with us your thoughts on the city's development. And so this is for Alfred as well as Becky.
And so insofar as the development, I'm going to talk about Main Street. So I think that ultimately, and Becky knows this has been going on for quite some time, that Main Street's going to be developed. I think development is going to come sooner rather than later. I think the key thing, and I think that the key thing here is to involve all the key stakeholders, that the residents know what exactly is going to go in there, and that they have an opportunity to voice their opinions before the city commission. I think that's fundamental. I think that the concern that a lot of people have with development is when they don't feel that they're being heard in those plans. So that's one of the key things, is to have all the stakeholders participate. The other issue is that in that proposed development for Main Street, there is talk that we're going to have plenty of civic spaces and green spaces. As a matter of fact, as part of the ambassador program, that's been spoken about. There were actually presentations by current developers that are online basically to start developing the area once everything is cleared. But one of the key things that was actually mentioned that I think is fundamental for moving forward with this is affordable housing being made available within Main Street, because there is going to be a significant residential presence there. And one of the things that we found with regard to development is that residential development tends to generate less traffic than commercial development. Main Street originally, or a couple of years ago, was conceived as having a bigger footprint of commercial development, and that would have generated a lot more traffic. Because of COVID and the lack of popularity of brick and mortar stores, that's been scaled back and residential has been increased. I just want to make sure that that residential development is truly inclusive, as the city's mission says, that we want to be inclusive of everybody. So that's the key. Involve the stakeholders, have the diversity, have the inclusivity there. Thank you so much.
in there. We're going to do fire and police in one building. Other cities have done, it works out well. There'll be an amphitheater, and I want green space, and I want green building. I think I share it with the rest of my commissioners. I want something done that is not overbuilt, and that the residents have a say in it, because you are the important ones. And if we don't hear from you, we don't know how to vote. So there you go.
We're just going to change our order slightly.
An opportunity for us to go back to that affordable housing piece and making sure that we're building that affordable housing and that workforce housing to make sure people can afford to live in Coconut Creek, and that we're continuing to service those young families. Again, we're a city where the median age is 40 and over 60% of households have children. We need to make sure that they have a place to go I've seen a lot of the specs for what's currently being slated for Main Street. Obviously, that's still very up in the air. And a big tenet of my campaign has been civic involvement. So to speak to what Commissioner Tooley was saying, I am very much in favor of as much civic participation and as much resident input as we can possibly do. And I will be very strong on all of those different developers and all those parties involved to make sure that they are reaching out to the citizens at every opportunity. And I promise to make sure that my office is open to answer any questions and to help bridge that gap if there's any kind of gap in communications. Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of residents don't realize how much power they have and how much of a voice that they can have if they just take one step forward. And I'll definitely be someone that's going to be there to meet you and bring you into the process and explain and make those connections to ensure that you can have your voice heard to make sure Main Street looks like how you want it to look. Thank you.
We have the opportunity now to really focus on affordable housing. We are going to be bringing in brand new units to this area that we now need to encourage people to purchase and give them the tools to be able to do so. We're looking at just south of $300 million development there. They're still working on purchasing the parcels because so many different entities own over there. And when I spoke to Karen Brooks, the city manager, she was very insightful on the matter. And once you start building in the sewer and the drainage and the plumbing, you can't go back. So taking input from the citizens is the most important thing, and I think we all agree on that it's important to have people's voices heard. Because at the end of the day, it's their Main Street. It's our Main Street. And when you get buy-in, when you get people to contribute, they have ownership over it. And they feel good and proud about the work that the city and the developers put into that area. But once you break ground and we build, it's there. So haste makes waste. We still, even if it's been 18 years, we still must take our time in developing that area because it must be thoughtful, it must be thorough, and we want smart building. We want it to be effective for our citizens to use. We want to make sure the roads in and out aren't going to cause traffic delays.
They couldn't dredge it as much as we want to because if they did, the walls would cave in. But we still helped a little bit. But climate change is important. You know, they all want us to buy electric cars and whatever, and I'm not really sold on an electric car because I like to travel every once in a while. So you can only go 350 miles on an electric charge. But we do have charging stations for those that want to use it in the city. But climate change is going to change our whole world. You may see Florida in the ocean someday. Because the borders of Florida on both sides are less and less than what they used to be. So we have to do everything we can to try to help with climate change. And we have Sheila Rose, who's our deputy city manager, and she, as far as I'm concerned, she's #1 on climate control and does a great job. So we're working on it. There's a workshop, and some of us will be there and some of us won't. So it's an important factor.
All right, so obviously a very important issue for our city. I think we need to work with state and county to develop mitigation efforts, to get proper funding as well for those efforts. The state, I know, has developed it as one of the key priorities is to harden the resources that are available in cities to protect against sea level rise. So I think that's something that we definitely have to do. The other thing that we have to do is work with the younger generations. I think that there's an exquisite opportunity with all the local schools here for city officials to work with those schools to educate the younger generations about the importance of preserving their environment and their city. So that's another thing. I was actually, when I was on the Environmental Advisory Board, I was actually working on a plan with the Education Advisory Board to just provide information to children at the local schools about the recycling efforts that the city's engaged in. Because I think that's key. Those kids will then go forth and tell their parents about what's going on in terms of recycling, and they can also exert the kind of moral pressure that's oftentimes necessary to get the parents, the adults, to do the right thing. So I think that's key. Ultimately, I think we need more engagement from the residents, and one of the key things that I've mentioned before, one of my proposals is make our website more accessible, make it that you can go on there. And if you care about the environment, if you care about the turnpike, if you care about the landfill, you can actually...
I mean, I have plenty of critters in my backyard, but invasive species are something else. They're not meant to be here, and they affect the wildlife that is supposed to be in Coconut Creek. And so, first and foremost, you need to make sure we're not leaving out food. We need to make sure that we're containing our trash, because that's what, especially the Muscovy ducks and the iguanas, are going to go after. So we need to make sure our city policies are in line, that our code is enforcing, trash be put away, and that's going to be just making sure that's not hospitable to them. And I also know we have a great animal control department with our city police, and so for any of you that do have issues with any of these animals, definitely reach out to them. They are at every city event. I've seen them. They're informing people. They're giving out the coyote whistles, and just make sure that you're letting them know if you're having an issue with a coyote in your backyard, and they should be able to help as well. And with my time left, I would love to just touch on the last question, because regarding conservation and climate change, that's also things that impact invasive species coming in, because if they can't be in their own home, they're going to look for another home. So those are actually intertwined, and we need to make sure that in our conservation efforts, we are not creating more waste. We're not going to recycle our way out of these issues. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So me and my wife have two small dogs, and the coyote issue is something that we've talked about. We got our whistle, just a regular whistle. I went there, I thought it was going to be like some special coyote whistle. It was a regular whistle, but I know it's helped people in Coranda 1 where we live. I know some people have posted. It's important that we do not leave garbage out, that we do not litter, that we do not have these items out for these invasive species to get, because like Nancy was saying, they're looking for food. They are trying to find a new home because maybe their old home isn't available for them anymore, or it's been tainted, and it's a problem for us. We see that right outside our house. I kid you not, a guy comes with a big loaf of bread, and he dumped it right by the canal, and the ducks just go. It's a buffet. It's the Golden Corral. So it's important that we are educating people that you're doing this. Yes, you might be helping them for right now to get their instant food, but what are you doing to them in the grand scheme? Because now they're relying on these items, and we must be thorough. Emily Wood, who's over, who's in Broward County over our animal protection area, she, I know they've been working tirelessly to kind of look into these invasive species, but they have a hotline. If ever it comes to your area, you have to be, you have to call them and be active, because they're just, this is an interesting question, but it's something to really have the conversation with the community and see how it is affecting us negatively and see how we can combat it.
Okay,
Have to vote, and people must be active in their civic processes, because without that, people in power will take a turn and they will just continue to go unless they are watched and unless they are being actively held accountable. And that's what's most important. It's important that the people on the ground in the city can represent the city and not have that intrusive approach from the state government or even county government to tell us how to do things. We know what our issues are. We breathe the same air, we drive the same streets, we are going to the same stores. We must be able to govern our city without oversight or overreach of a bigger power. And sometimes it is hard, but we have to be, we have to vote, we have to be active. It's very important that people do what they need to do, because if not, once people have power, they're going to utilize it, and we must be smart. Thank you.
Sorry, that wasn't the order on the slide, but I'm happy to go next and talk about this issue because I have so much to say about it, and I can only get it in 2 minutes. As I said before, first and foremost, I have the Tallahassee network already. I've been endorsed by many of our local legislators. I promise to be up in Tallahassee fighting this. We have to be present, we have to be visible, and we have to be vocal. We are coming up upon a legislative session unlike we have probably ever seen, And that's with the backdrop of the past couple legislative sessions where home rule was being eroded time and time again. And it's only going to get worse with this new legislature. And part of what we need to recognize is we're in a bubble in Broward County. Most of our local elected in the legislature, save for one, are very much in favor of home rule. Our state rep, Christine Hunchofsky, comes from local government. We have so many local legislators that come from local government, and they understand that. And if we're only talking to them, we're never getting anything done because what they're voting on is in the minority compared to the rest of the state. So we need to be up there. We need to push our lobbyists to be talking to those other legislators that don't come from local government, that come from other parts of the state, that don't understand Coconut Creek issues, and make sure that we tell them what the impact of their decisions are on us. And until they can understand that, or until we can mobilize people in other parts of the state to vote the way that we've clearly been voting here, we're not going to see a change. And we also need to make sure we're reaching out to people that aren't necessarily
legislative level, but we can build the necessary coalition to at least stop some of this stuff from encroaching any further. So awareness raising, hitting that critical mass in terms of voters and getting them involved. And I think ultimately we will be able to check the power of the state, but it's going to be a long and involved process, and we must stay consistent. I think to sum up what Jeffrey was saying, there is no reality except through action. I believe that firmly. And we have to be in the middle of the action. We have to be there with the residents, and we got to do it more often than just every 4 years. We got to be there knocking on doors throughout those 4 years to inform them about what's happening. Thank you so much.
Well, I can say I was a home rule hero, which meant every Monday I was on phone calls to the legislators. I watched the legislation while it's in session, and I text people. If there's a bad bill and the League of Cities comes out and says, hey, can you write these people and tell them this bill is very bad for us, then I spend sometimes till 2 o'clock in the morning telling them it's not good for us. Do they listen? Truthfully, the legislator hates Broward County because it's Democratic. So they really don't give a damn. But you know what? I don't care whether they give a darn or not, because I'm going to be on their back. And I do this every year. I'll sit in my office. I may be working on something else, but I have the legislation and the meetings on my other computer. And it's important to contact them. I can tell you, Christina Chomsky is one of the best legislators I've seen for a while. She does a great, great job. And this no permit gun is got her to go. She was on TV this morning. But I don't care whether I know them or not, they get an email from me, good or bad. If it's a good bill, then I'll say yes. But I always, pass it by the attorney and whatever, and I'm on the board of the League of Cities in Broward, and they'll tell us which bill that we need to get a hold of, and that's what we do. So to take away home rule, that's horrible, and some of the things they're going to do is not going to help the cities. So go against them. You people can do it too. Thank you.
So audience members have provided us with lots of questions, so we've been discussing how best to proceed. So what we're doing is putting them in buckets.
Coconut Creek Plaza is something I'm proud that we bring up. It's something that my campaign has been talking a lot about with voters in Winmore and in South Creek. There's a lot of attention on the north side of Coconut Creek, and we need the south side to have some attention too, especially that shopping plaza. So we've talked about the flooding. But we also want to encourage young businesses and restaurants, give people options. There's not even a coffee shop inside of that plaza. It's right down the road from Broward College, which brings in a lot of people from in and around the area. We don't even have a coffee shop there, which is a problem to me. Okay, I think the commissioner's job is to work with the landlord and the developer to incentivize and encourage businesses to bring their business to that plaza. Now it is on the cusp of Margate, Pompano, and Lauderhill area, a little south, but it's very important that we encourage people to come and invest in this plaza. There used to be, I know a long time ago, I talked to somebody, Zelly's Delis used to be on the corner. And she was talking to me about how Zelly's Delis used to be here, and it used to be a great spot. People would go. Now all of a sudden we have people from Windmore who are going to the Publix down at Winston Park. They don't even want to go to that plaza. The parking is a problem, and we need to put pressure on people. We need, when people they make their money, they collect their rent. We have to put pressure on the developers and the landlords to do what's best for the citizens that we represent. Because if we're not doing that, what are we doing then? We need to represent. I want to talk about the zoning. 20 seconds on the zoning. As somebody who works in Broward County Schools, and somebody who I spoke to somebody in South Creek recently, because people from not even Coconut Creek are going to Coconut Creek High School. So it's a school name, and I try to say, listen to zoning, and they're working on the zoning with Stoneman Douglas and Monarch and all these things. We have to be thorough with the zoning. We have to be providing programs at Coconut Creek High School. Okay, another magnet program, something to encourage more people to want to go to Coconut Creek and bring in high academic achieving students to the area that can help contribute to the school grade, which then can contribute people moving into the area and wanting to bring their families up here. Thank you.
Anyone else?
So yeah, so far as the development issue, I think that again, ultimately, we have to work with residents. I know that the city a couple of years back actually had an informal survey where they were asking residents what they wanted to see more or less of.
It is, and the owner has a right to do what they want within reason. So I still gripe about it because I go there, but I don't go there trying to work with them. There is a group of young people who I'm really proud of are going to do a gamers thing. And Atlantic Tech is really excited about it. They're going to come in. You know, you can go in, you can play games, you can play with a computer. They'll teach computers. So I think it's a good thing for the city. And it's great because the young people are doing it. As far as Coconut Creek, I live in South Creek and I hear every day, why do our kids have to go to Margate Middle? That's the way it's zoned. If you ever want to fight it, you can come with me and sit till 5 in the morning at the meetings where they pick the different meetings. And I've been there, and there's not too many people that do. But Nora Rupert and myself and a couple others always went to the meetings to try to get our kids to go to Lions Creek. However, Lions Creek has a lot of trouble with traffic and everything else. And I feel sorry for those neighbors that live
and all of the green spaces in the city. If you look at the actual city code, buildings are now required to have LEED certification or something similar when they're built. So, and as so much as we're not putting in too many buildings, I'm really confident that what we do put in will be strategic and will be beneficial to the city. And I do strive to make sure we're maintaining and maybe even increasing or replenishing our green spaces. In regards to the schools, like I said before, I'm a PTA mom. I'm highly involved. Both my kids go to Tradewinds. And the school problem is not within the city confines of Coconut Creek. It doesn't end at the borders. This is a larger county issue, and we need to make sure that we are constantly in contact with the school board, and we're making sure that kids go to the schools closest to them, because a lot of the issues with overcrowding come from kids choosing to go from school choice, kids choosing to go to a different school because they're not happy with the school in their area, and they're allotted a certain amount of leeway with what school they go to. And this again goes all the way back to Tallahassee and overreach and their funding of the schools. So that issue first and foremost, we need to make sure we're dealing with Tallahassee and making sure our schools are properly funded from the state. And then making sure we're working with the school board and that the school board is doing their job to make sure every school is a hospitable place for the students that are closest to it and that kids want to go to those schools. Tradewinds is actually unique in that it is underserved, or is underpopulated right now compared to, was that 30 seconds? 10. Oh. It is underpopulated because people are going elsewhere, and we need to just stop this game of pick and choose your school, and we need to make sure every school is good for every child. Thank you.
So, if that's not enough, all right, let's reverse the order this time, and Nancy, would you like to go first?
Gladly. Okay. So let's see if I can remember every question on there. First of all, and this is the question that I love and hate. If anyone happened to catch my Sun Sentinel interview, we discussed this very thing. I lived in the city just under 2 years, and again, that goes back to affordable housing and my ability to be able to get the financing I needed to buy a house. I wanted to move to this city for a very long time, and it took a very long time for my husband and I to be able to get everything in order just the right way that the bank wanted it to be, and to be able to find a house that we could afford. So I've been involved in the city for much longer than I've been here, and I've been paying attention, and I studied it, and this was the only city I wanted to move to when I was looking to buy a home. Then it was advisory boards, and okay, so I stated at the beginning, I represent our county district on the Commission on the Status of Women, and I also am on the school board's Human Relations Committee. Because they did away with most of the advisory boards, I have not served on any of the city's advisory boards, and I would love to see some of them maybe brought back, because I truly believe that it is not a commissioner's job to be a policy expert on every issue, and we need to make sure that we have those experts and those people that are doing the deep policy dives to inform the commission on what is going on the environment, what is going on in education, and we need to make sure that we have a fully informed commission to do that. As far as the Citizens Academy goes, I was unable to attend last year's Citizens Academy because I was doing the actual work of working for a city commissioner in Fort Lauderdale the very nights that those meetings were happening, because they were on Tuesday nights, and that's when Fort Lauderdale City Commission meetings were. So I was actually doing the work day to day in the city of Fort Lauderdale alongside a commissioner. So I know what it's like, what city departments there are. I know what it's like to work in a city manager style of government. And I've worked with constituents and with city staff to get things done. Did I miss any questions?
I don't believe so.
And time's up. Got it.
Okay, as far as the Citizens Academy, there wasn't a Citizens Academy when I was elected, but Yvonne Lopez and I went to Dayton, Ohio for a conference, and we were with John DeCineo, who's a retired policeman, and Wayne Toby, who's director of Parks and Rec. And we sat there, and somebody from Redlands, California said, we have this program, it's called Know Your City. And they were having so many people complain.
Citizens Academy, as I mentioned before, I did complete that. As Becky was pointing out, it was great because you get to know how Coconut Creek does things. You get to know the Coconut Creek staff. You get to know the departments and how they're run and how beautifully they're run, actually. And one of the things that time and again I came across, whether I was visiting Sable Pines Park, etc., was that the staff, what I saw at the Citizens Academy, wasn't just a show. These people actually care. I met Brandon at Sable Pines Park. I was having a get-together there, and that gentleman was the nice, he drove up, I thought he was going to issue us a citation or something like that, and started talking to him. The most well-informed, well-mannered young man you've ever met. Staff is excellent here. So the Citizens Academy gives you an insight into that, into the running of the city. In terms of the advisory boards, one of the things that I was proud of doing was I've served on the Planning and Zoning Board, I've served on the Environmental Advisory Board, Education Advisory Board, etc., etc. It's in my literature. I can hand it out so you can read it yourself. But one of the things that I was very proud of is on the Planning and Zoning Board, we actually approved for the building of Texas Roadhouse, one of the local businesses here, which we visit regularly, so I actually enjoyed that quite a lot. But you really do get to see how the staff works so diligently to keep the advisory boards informed and how to better run the city. That's the bottom line. And you also get
30 seconds.
And you also get to see the particular issues affecting the city. I've been here now 7.5 years. I believe that being here 7.5 years has created a deep roots in the community, number one, and also a deep care for its ultimate plight. And like I said, we're at a crossroads. Last thing, insofar as time, I'm an attorney, I'm a small business owner, I run my own business, so I basically make my own hours. And if it's necessary, as Becky's pointing out, that it's a full-time job and then some, I'm willing to do it for my city, because ultimately, what brings it home for me is my children and their future and them staying here. Thank you.
Fight for millennials and all generations, because at the end of the day, we talk about climate change. Me, my kids, my grandkids, we're going to be here over the next 25, 50 years. And it's important that people like me get invested in this. And I want to lead my generation. I think it takes a lot of chutzpah to go from public life, a private life, to public life. And with the blessing of my wife too, we've been able to do it pretty fluid, and it's been incredible.
15 seconds.
one of the big things I've been doing is student engagement. It's getting the youth and getting them involved in, that's what I've been working on, is getting students involved in their communities, in their education, and taking it to the next level for them. They need good role models. They need people who are relatable, who are accountable, who are personable, and my time is up.
All right, we are coming to the end of our event today. Each of you will have 2 minutes to make closing remarks. And I would ask you to include in those closing remarks why you are the best choice without criticizing your opponents. Let me hear why you believe you are the best choice for the commission. And we're going to start with you.
I want to make sure the order is correct this time on the PowerPoint before I jumped up. So thank you for giving guidance on the closing statement, because I feel like we talked about so much. What is there left to talk about? I am here to represent young families, young professionals, because we need a voice on the commission. This is a young city, like I said before, median age 40, 60% of households, more than 60% of households have young children. We need to have that voice. We need someone that has a deep love for this city like I do. Like I said, I only wanted to move to Coconut Creek. I did my research, I did my setting, I was present in the city, I was attending city events long before I ever moved here. I really care about this city, and I want to make sure it grows, it thrives, we keep everything that's so amazing about being here, and we move forward, because our tagline, we're the butterfly capital of the world, is our motto, but our tagline is progressive, innovative, and inclusive. And I want to make sure that we continue to do that. I have the municipal experience to help get things done, and I have both the internal knowledge of the city and the perspective of what's going on around us to be able to bring in that knowledge and that influence and those ideas to keep.
And hopefully we're changing, our diversity is changing, and we ask, some of us ask that we change some of the things that we have to go to for different diversity.
30 seconds.
People, and that's starting to happen, and I'm very happy about that. We have a lot of things for the residents to do, but you know what? Come to the commission meeting every once in a while, or listen to it to see what's going on, because then you're smart about it too. I tell everybody, if you're in a condo, you're in a single home, you have some issue in the city, come to the commission meeting and speak up at your 3 minutes, because I want to hear you. Thank you.
So why am I running for city commission, and why am I the best candidate? The reason why I'm running for city commission is because I believe in representation. I believe that our commissioners should be of the community, in the community, and that they continue to live in the community in the years to come. Because I think we're at a crossroads. Unfortunately, the district that I'm running for, the allegations were that my city commissioner, and this was heartbreaking to find out, didn't even live in the city. Those are the allegations. And when I heard that, I said, you know, I've been here 7.5 years. I've attended city commission meetings. I've been on advisory boards. It's time to step up. So ultimately, I believe that we need members of the community to be represented on that dais. One of the other things, and Becky was talking about diversity, one of the other reasons why is because even a 4-year-old, my 4-year-old daughter could see that there's a lack of representation on that dais. She was in the city commission meeting, and she looked up in the antechamber and saw portraits of all the individuals that have served as mayor on the city commission. She didn't see anyone that looked like Daddy, and she told Mommy, how come none of those people look like Daddy? And I said to myself, if not me, then who? Because I haven't seen it happen. In the 55 years that this city has been around, it has never had a person of color. And when you look at 24% of the population here in Coconut Creek is Hispanic, and we, out of the 5 commissioners, we've never had somebody that is of color. When we look at the fact that the city as a whole will be majority minority in the years to come, we need that added perspective. I think we absolutely need that. And fundamentally, I think preparation is key. Knowing how the city is run, knowing where it's going, and the challenge
We're trying to do every single day, and it's to earn your vote. It's to make you comfortable with the change. Because yes, sometimes we need a change. And sometimes when you bring somebody new in, with fresh ideas, a new perspective, it can change the clarity of the city. And that is why I'm doing this. And I thank you guys so much for today, and I thank you all for coming, because it shows a lot of dedication to what we are doing. And thank you again. Please vote for Jeffrey Wasserman. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just have 2 more slides, and then this is the end of the presentation, and we'll be finished soon. So, for those of you who don't know, we have an election on March the 14th. We will be voting citywide for individuals who will represent Districts A and Districts G. These individuals will serve until March 2027. At the ballot, you will be voting for these individuals as well as voting on one ballot question concerning the amendments to the city charter relating to filling vacancies. And the question is stated on the screen. Voting is, again, citywide, which is incredibly important to know. And the deadline to register to vote will be Monday. In this room is Monica, I'm going blank now, Elliott, from the Broward League of Women Voters. If you have questions concerning your status, concerning whether or not you are able to vote or if you've registered to vote, which is very important because if you are someone who votes by mail, please know that you actually have to make that request again to be eligible to vote. And so if you have questions about your eligibility, etc., we have a wonderful representative from the League of Women Voters who can answer those questions. Early voting is not available for this election, and polling will actually be in this building, and polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday, March the 14th. So with that said, on behalf of my colleague, Bernadette Jensen,
I just want to say that I am not a resident of Hoboken.